Hello again, YouTube. This is Schwa here. Today, I'd like to go over briefly the topic of why you want to get into executive protection. Now, let me preface this with I am not prior military or prior law enforcement. I am actively seeking a role as a police officer here in my state. That has not happened yet, but in general, this is a question I had to ask myself why I want to get into personal protection. I think it is a good question that anybody who wants to get into this field should ask themselves because there are a lot of positives and there are a lot of negatives. Like any job, none is perfect. It's just whether or not the pros and cons are going to fit your types of needs as a person. So I have a few topics to talk about. I'll try to keep this under about 5 minutes. So again, the first question is why do you want to get into executive protection? Some of the cons are the shifts are long. You'll be working 12-hour shifts. You'll be working 3 12-hour shifts, maybe 4 at a time, and then you'll have a couple of days off. A lot of times it will be boring because you'll just be either outside or sitting in a car and you'll hold your pee. There won't be anything exciting going on. You'll be sitting a lot of the time. Depending on the detail, you'll be sitting about 80% of the time. So, you have to worry about, again, boredom. You can't be on your phone. So this is one of those types of jobs in which you just have to know that this is going to be part of the territory. It's what you're signed up for. But on the other end of the spectrum, if you do want to actually carry a firearm, if you do want to protect others, if you want to be fulfilled, sorry about that, wife's talking in the background. If you want to be fulfilled in your work at the end of the day, this is definitely a job that you might want to get into. The pay is not bad. Executive protection can lead you anywhere to $30 an hour to $30 an hour to $50, $60, $70 an hour, depending on training. If you want to get into the higher end of the spectrum of the hourly range, you're going to need to have possible EMT or medical skills. You'll need to have definitely marksmanship capabilities. You should be certified in not just handgun, but also shotgun, rifle. You'll also have had to have maybe prior military or law enforcement experience. That will up your pay. So there are ways to definitely make yourself more valuable. If you can keep your mouth shut, that's definitely something that does not have a price tag as well. Simply because you are under non-disclosure agreements typically. So you definitely cannot go run your mouth about the type of detail you just ran and who you ran it for and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, this is there are pros and cons to it for sure. The big thing for me is I work in IT, but I want to do something that's a little more fulfilling, a little more edgy. Just at the end of the day, I want to be able to say I did make a difference in someone's life and I kept them safe. So moving on to the next question is, who wants to get into executive protection? Now, like I just mentioned, the two main types, which used to be the predominant body of individuals who were in executive protection, are prior law enforcement or current law enforcement and prior or current military, simply because they obviously have the experience, especially if they've been in a war zone or if they've been in cities that, they've seen a lot of action, so they can definitely handle themselves. But also there's folks with no experience like myself. A gentleman I spoke to who works at a local executive protection company, security company, he said that one of their best agents used to be a bartender. I mean, it's just one of the things. It depends on how you handle yourself under pressure. When you are scared, do you tend to freeze? Do you tend to run? Do you tend to essentially, can you react under pressure? Can you react through fear? So it's one of those things you have to really know yourself because lives are at stake here. So those are the types of people who want to get in, who typically get in and typically go to the top of the resume pile. So moving on to the next type of question, who will you be protecting? So there are probably 3 main categories. You'll have your foreign dignitaries and or politicians. You'll also have celebrities who definitely want, who need to be able to walk amongst the public but also feel secure. And you'll also have business and wealthy folks. Now, the business and the wealthy folks, there are some people, depending on the threat level, and let's say the threat level is very low, who just have money. They just want the extra layer of security so they can, sleep better at night. For them, it's essentially a living, breathing security system, kind of like the one that you have on your wall panel if you have a security system. So for them, some people don't really need it. Others, they actually have a threat against their life. They could be, they could have screwed some people over in business. There could have been retaliation. They could be just shady individuals in some, illegal business dealings. Also, at the same time, they could just I'm trying to think. They could have just, crossed the wrong person, or maybe in general that they have gangs that are after them. It could be any reason why somebody feels that their threat level needs to be heightened, and they could have just laid off a bunch of people as well. So when you lay off like not just 50 but 100 or 200 or even 1,000 people, there are some disgruntled individuals out there who will take it upon themselves to go after the person responsible. So more than anything, you'll probably be dealing with business folks or wealthy individuals who are going to need executive protection. Sometimes they need it for short term, sometimes they need it for a long term. Celebrities for the most part for the rest of their life, so they're always going to need security. And dignitaries, depending on when their stint is up, they may not have it unless they are the president who gets lifetime security. So as for the type of work around, depending on where you are, the bulk of the work is probably going to be out in California on the West Coast, and also in New York. Now, there are a lot of celebrities and or business folk and or dignitaries that are in those two areas. I'm in Virginia, and the type of work that you're going to be doing here is probably going to be short-term contract work. So anywhere from 1 week, 2 weeks to 5 weeks, maybe a few months. There are individuals who can pay for it full time, but again, it's going to be one of those jobs where if the threat level is very low, you're just going to be holding your pee for about 12 hours. And you'll probably be working alone. So I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about executive protection and why people get into it, the types of people that get into it, and the type of work they're going to be doing. So it's definitely something you need to ask yourself, because you don't want to waste someone else's time. You don't want to be bored and basically sleeping on the job or just asleep at the wheel and letting something happen to an individual who is paying for services to keep them safe and keep them alive. So with that said, if you want to get into it, go find a good school, a reputable school, get your training. The one thing is that as a private citizen, kind of like if you were to help somebody in a medical situation, you will be judged depending on your training. So if you've been trained by, for example, the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services, they're the Virginia DCJS, they will hold you to a higher standard, especially if you pull the trigger or you hurt somebody in the line of duty protecting somebody. So definitely keep that in mind. There are higher stakes involved, not just with your clients, but also with you and the legal troubles you could run into. But with that said, it can be fulfilling work. And yeah, just good luck to you out there if you are interested in getting into executive protection. It's not for everybody, but for those who are in it, they love it. And the good outweighs the bad, and the money can be very good. So signing off, this is Schwa. Take care. Have a wonderful day. And I hope to hear from some of your comments. Bye-bye.